Welcome to my classroom. In this chemical process calculation course, we have been discussing about energy balance. So in this particularly, if you look at thermophysics and thermochemistry basics, we have to discuss about what is heat of formation, what is heat of the reaction, what is standard heat of formation, what is standard heat of the reaction, enthalpy changes. Okay, so all this we have to we'll just refresh the basic definitions of all these, and we will solve problems in determining the heat capacities, determination of specific heat capacities or molar heat capacities of solids, how to calculate. If data is not available, what empirical equation we can use, which law governs it. Okay, specific heat capacities of liquids, how to determine it, how to determine the specific heat of a gas mixture. So all that we are going to determine. So because these specific heat values are useful in determining the heat removed or heat added to the system, right? And particularly when you are looking into the enthalpy changes of the systems involving chemical reactions, we have to, because most of the unit processes in a chemical industry, obviously we are going to have a chemical reaction taking place, which will be the mother unit. Okay, out of all the there can be unit operations or unit processes, and unit process will be the mother unit mostly. But with respect to petrochemical industry, it is different story, because their distillation column is the mother unit, biggest unit, whereas in any other chemical industry where chemical reaction takes place, that is going to the mother unit, because depending upon what is the extent of the reaction, what is the percentage conversion, what is the yield, what is the selectivity, based on that only we are going to have upstream side, and in the downstream side what purifications accordingly we have to perform, right? Separation processes, material preparation, material storage, and heat requirement, all that are in other units are going to be dependent on what is happening in the mother unit, or heart of a chemical process, chemical industry is a chemical reactor. So what is happening in the chemical reactor is of more interest to all of us, because we should know what is the reaction taking place, whether it is whether heat to be added to the system or heat is removed from the system, whether it is endothermic reaction or exothermic reaction. All these are going to be defined based on what is heat of the reaction, what is heat of combustion, what is heat of formation, what is specific heat, all that, right? So when a chemical reactions occur, heat is either absorbed or evolved. So there are three type of heat changes are possible interest to us. Okay, one is heat of combustion. Whenever we have a combustible substance and which is oxidized, or we supply oxygen to it, and a reaction is taking place, we can call it as heat of combustion, which is of more interest to us. And there can be heat of formation. If you have any substance which is formed from its basic elements or pure elements, we can call it as heat of formation of any substance. Okay, so that is of importance. And apart from it, and importantly, we are going to convert as a chemical engineer, what we are doing in the industry, we are converting a low value raw material into a value added product by most effective way, most economic way, more eco-friendly way. That is our objective, right? The difference between a chemical engineer and a chemical chemist is, a chemist manufactures synthesizes some new material in a laboratory in small scale, in a test tube, or in pilot scale in so bigger vessels. But as a mass production to be supplied to the market or the society, people have to be benefited, just like how vaccines are being developed for various diseases. If it has to reach to all the people in the country, in the globe, it has to be produced in mass. Okay, so long time back penicillin was invented. It has reached all the people with the help of chemical engineers only. We only made how to produce it in large scale, so that it can reach all the people to get the vaccine, right? So that way it's important that as a chemical engineer we should know what is happening in a chemical reactor. What is heat of formation? It is the heat absorbed or evolved when 1 mole of a compound is formed from its elements at a given temperature and pressure. It is heat of formation. So if you are taking it at a standard conditions like a 25 degrees Celsius and a pressure of 1 atmosphere, we can call it as a standard state. 1 atmospheric pressure and 25 degrees Celsius is reference state. In that case, we can say that it is a standard state. Okay, at standard state, what is the heat of formation? What is specific heat of formation means, for 1 mole of substance, how much heat is absorbed or evolved you can refer it to a standard heat of formation. Okay, then what is heat of combustion? It is the heat evolved when 1 mole of a substance undergoes a complete combustion. Complete combustion. What is standard heat of combustion? It is at the standard conditions of 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure. How much heat is evolved per 1 mole of a substance being combusted? Okay, that is called heat of combustion. What is heat of reaction? It is the heat evolved or absorbed when 1 mole or more substances. Okay, one mole of each substance may be there, right? So when one or more moles of substances react to form other compounds is called heat of reaction. Okay, so actually when I say heat of formation is a special type of heat of a reaction. Okay, because if a compound is formed from its element, that particular chemical reaction, heat of the chemical reaction can be termed as heat of formation. Okay, if we talk about heat of the reaction, it is the enthalpy change resulting due to a chemical reaction. It is the enthalpy change resulting in a chemical reaction, resulting due to a chemical reaction. It is the enthalpy change resulting due to a chemical reaction wherein the reactants are fed in the stoichiometric ratios or stoichiometric amounts, and the reactions proceeds to complete conversion when there is 100% conversion. Okay, and here the reactants are feed are entering at a temperature and pressure, and the products also emerging out of the reactor at the same temperature pressure. That means the reactants and the products both are in same state, and the temperature at a constant temperature and pressure the reactions are taking place. We can call it as the heat evolved or absorbed during this process is called heat of the reaction. Okay, so we can write this heat of the delta R. Okay, delta H of R refers to reaction. So this delta HR we can write with a superscript and subscript of delta HR superscript naught. If you put 0 at the superscript and T at the subscript along with R, if you write comma T, then we can say that reactants and the products are in the same state, and this reaction is taking place at the given temperature T. Okay, so I can say if the reaction is taking place at 500 degrees Celsius and both reactants and products are in the liquid phase, or both reactants and products are in the gas phase, if they both reactants and products are in the same phase, I can write like delta H R comma 500 degrees Celsius superscript naught. Okay, so that is standard heat of the reaction at the given temperature. Okay, so for so we are going to have different heat of the reactions, right, for various compounds, but it is very difficult to establish a complete data of what at a different temperature what is the heat of the reaction, right? So for that purpose we always have a standard condition data. Okay, the heat of the reaction at a standard data is known. So the standard data I told you, it is widely accepted for gases. It is ideal gas law is applicable, and 0.1 megapascal, or you can say 100 kilopascal is considered a standard condition. For liquids also, the liquid should be pure and the pressure should be 0.1 megapascal, and solids also, the solid should be pure. Okay, and it should be more stable, pure solid, stable, and the pressure should be 0.1 megapascal. So these are accepted as the standard conditions, or you can say standard state. Okay, so with reference to standard state, so we are going to do all the heat of the reaction, all the calculations at this reference condition, and remaining the change in temperature to our actual temperature are going to be sensible heat, which you will calculate using MCP delta T. For example, my reactant is at 200 degrees Celsius, my product is at 400 degrees Celsius, but I will be doing my balance heat balance, means this heat of the reaction calculations at a standard reference temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. That means the sensible heat associated from bringing the 200 degrees Celsius reactant to 25 degrees Celsius has to be considered. Then heat of the reaction is taking place at 25 degrees Celsius. Then you will consider the heat sensible heat associated with heating this from 25 degree to 300 degrees Celsius. So these two are sensible heats which we have already calculated. Using MCP delta T you can calculate. So we are going to consider the heat of the reaction taking place at the reference conditions only. So we are going to make use of heat of the reaction data or heat of the reaction of heat of formation or heat of combustion, all that we are going to calculate at only 25 degrees Celsius, okay, and atmospheric pressure, okay. So this is what we are basically going to consider. So how we can define this standard heat of the reaction? The standard heat of the reaction is the enthalpy change associated with a chemical reaction where both reactants and the products are in the standard states. Standard states in the pure at a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, and it is denoted by the symbol delta HR naught. When I say naught, both reactants and products are in the same phase, which we have discussed a little while earlier. Okay, what happens if the heat of the reaction is positive? Whenever this delta HR naught is positive, it is, we can say that heat is absorbed. Heat is absorbed. In that case, it is an endothermic process. Okay, endothermic reaction. The reaction is endothermic when heat is absorbed by the system. That is, heat to be supplied to the system. It is endothermic reaction. When delta HR is negative, when delta HR is negative, in that case what happens? Heat is evolved in the reaction. That means heat is evolving means temperature is rising. That is exothermic reaction. So we have to continuously remove the heat from the system to maintain, because the temperature shoots up, the desired product may not be formed, right? So that way to also it is unable to control the system, right? Your material, the wall of the container, that reactor wall may have made up of a material which may not withstand high temperature. Right? That's why in an exothermic system we have to continuously remove the heat. What is delta HR value for an exothermic reaction? It is negative. So when heat of the reaction is positive, it is endothermic reaction, heat needs to be supplied to the system. Whereas when heat of the reaction is negative, heat needs to be removed from the system. It is exothermic reaction. Okay. So the value of the heat of the reaction depends upon the state of the aggregation, like for gas, liquid and solids, because how it is aggregated, whether reactants as well as products. Okay. The state of aggregation of a reaction component is indicated by a letter in the parenthesis, okay, in following its chemical formula. For example, how we write, if it is solids, even during sublimation what we will write, solid name we will write, within bracket we will put S. If it is a gas like methane, carbon dioxide, all that, it will be written within bracket G. Okay, if it is a liquid, we will write it L. Okay, so and along with the reaction, we will write what is delta HR naught. Okay, so that is how we are going to follow. We are going to write, for example, reactant A plus B gives R, A plus B giving R, A is solid, A subscript within bracket S, plus B is liquid, let me say B with subscript L, and if R is gas, I am going to write R subscript G, and beside this reaction we are going to write what is delta HR naught. R is the subscript, naught is the superscript. Naught, what does the naught 0 at the top represent? They are at the reactants as well as products are in the standard state. That's what naught represents. R represents, it is the reaction. If it is combustion, you can write delta HC. But in general, when I am writing a reaction, reaction is taking place, delta HR will do. Okay. So what is heat of formation? It is the enthalpy change accompanying the formation of 1 mole of a compound from its elements at a given temperature and pressure. Okay. What is standard heat of formation? As I said, is the heat of the reaction when 1 mole of a compound is formed from its element in a reaction beginning and ending at the same temperature of 25 degrees Celsius and 100 kilopascal. Okay. So when all the species are in the standard state, we can say the standard heat of formation. What is heat of combustion? It is the heat of the reaction of 1 mole substance with molecular oxygen. The combustion reaction proceeds with a reduction in enthalpy of a system, hence heats of combustion are assigned negative signs. Whenever we write standard heat of combustion, we assume that all the carbon is converted into CO2, all the hydrogen is converted into water, all S is converted into SO2 and all nitrogen is converted into nitrogen gas, N2 gas. Okay. Okay. Hess law states that the enthalpy change in a particular reaction is the same whether it takes place in single step or in multiple steps. Whatever may they be the route formed, like it may be single step or it may have done in series of various steps. The delta HR for a reactant getting converted into product is remains the same. That means if I say one route, it forms directly A giving product P, then delta HR is of this direct reaction is, let me say, delta HR. But in another route, A becoming B, B becoming C, C becoming D, and then finally becoming the product. Then delta H1 of the first reaction, delta HR of the second reaction, delta H of the third reaction. Summation of all these reactions will be equal to the direct reaction where A becoming product. So that way, so the heat of the reaction, regardless of the various routes, we can write the equation reaction, it's going to be the same. Total net heat of the reaction from A to becoming product is going to be the same regardless of it takes place in single step or in multiple steps. Okay, we'll start solving numericals on this S law. So we are going to have the recording here. So we are going to solve some numericals on Hess law and Cope's law in this lecture. We have seen just what is Hess law. Hess law states that enthalpy change in a particular reaction is the same whether it takes place in a single step or it takes place in multiple steps. Okay, the total change in enthalpy depends upon pressure, temperature, and state of aggregation of these states. Like, and it is independent of the intermediates. The heat of formation or enthalpy change, whether it takes place in single step or multiple step, it only bothers about what is the reactant and final product. What is intermediate steps, it doesn't depend on it, because it is whatever is the number of steps, a consecutive series of reactions it undergoes, this heat of the reaction is we are going to get for a given reactant and product, it is going to be the same at a given temperature. Okay, if you illustrate a Hess law, so for consider a reaction A is for giving B. So there is two way, as I explained earlier also. If A is forming B directly, we are going to have a heat of formation, right, for this reaction or heat of the reaction. But if we consider that it passes through a series of reactions like C, first A forms an intermediate C, where the heat of the reaction is delta H1. That C forms another intermediate D, where the heat of the reaction is delta H2. Remember delta H1, delta H2, delta H3, and delta H4. Either of them can be exothermic or endothermic, but the summation of these three will, these four, delta H1, delta H2, delta H3, and delta H4 is overall is going to be equal to that A giving B delta H. If that delta H is exothermic, the summation of this value also will give us a exothermic value. If delta H is endothermic, the summation of these individual delta H is going to be endothermic. Okay, so that's what Hess law states. So according to Hess law, this delta H overall, that is A giving B directly, is equal to delta H1 plus delta H2 plus delta H3 plus delta H4, regardless of it is exothermic or endothermic. Okay, but accordingly we are going to make use of the convention, right? We are going to use either a positive or negative sign. If it is positive, endothermic, heat is consumed. If it is negative, heat is heat is to be removed from the system, that is exothermic reaction. So if you consider an example of combustion, say the combustion can take place C plus O2 giving CO2 in single step also. If you consider it's following another mechanism like C plus O2 will first form CO, then that CO will form CO2. So we are having C plus O2 giving CO2 as one reaction. Okay, refer here. So we have a direct reaction C plus O2 giving CO2, just like A giving B here. So in that case, we are going to have a delta H of the reaction, and we can have another route like A forming C and C forming B, like that. So we have C plus of O2 giving CO, and then CO reacts with again another of O2 to form CO2. So here for this we are going to have a delta HR. Okay, so first this can be like similar to here. We here path 1 is, what is our path 1? Path 1 is we have delta H of the reaction. Okay, for C plus O2 giving CO2, for this we have delta HR. Okay, So let it be 1. So if we follow the another path too, so what happens is C plus of O2 giving CO, then CO reacts with another of O2 to form CO2. So we are going to have delta H1 here, delta H2 here. For this reaction, there will be a delta HR, right? So heat of the reaction, usually how we will write, as I said, we are going to write with the states like gas, say let me say in this case solid, plus B, a gas, will form C, a gas. So delta H1 we are going to have. Similarly here, for the second reaction, we are going to have delta H2. So we should not write here, we should head next to it. Okay, so what we have to write here is, so delta H of the reaction 1 through the root 1 is equal to delta H1 plus delta H2. That's what according to Hess law. Okay. So according to Hess law, delta H overall is equal to delta H1 plus delta H2 plus delta H3 plus delta H4 of the intermediate reactions that is taking place to convert A from the product B. Okay. So that's what I have written here. So according to Hess law, delta H is equal to delta H1 plus delta H2. Okay. So we'll do some numericals on Hess law. Calculate heat of formation. Calculate heat of formation of methane gas using the reactions given. Okay, let me say 3 reactions are given. CH4 gas reacts with 2 oxygen gas to form CO2 gas plus 2 H2O liquid, and for this delta H is given as minus 890.94 kilojoules. Okay, so another reaction is given, CS plus O2 gas gives CO2 gas, where delta H at 298 is given as 393.18 minus kilojoules. Okay. Another reaction is given, H2 gas plus half O2 gas gives H2O liquid, where delta H of 298 is equal to minus 286.03 kilojoules. Okay, so these are the reactions given. So we have to find the heat of formation of methane. So what is heat of formation of methane from its elements? We can write that from what are its elements? C plus H2, right? Carbon and hydrogen will react to form methane is going to be our overall reaction. Okay, so we can write C plus hydrogen forming methane. So what will be the balance here? C plus 2H2 gives CH4. So what is the delta H of the reaction is the question, right? So this is what we have to determine. What is delta HR for this given reaction? So how to do that? So I will tell you the simple procedure here. So what we can do is this: whatever is the reaction given, let me label it as A, B, C. What we have to get is equation number D. Okay. So what you can do is you have to make addition. You have to either A can be multiplied by a factor of, okay, it can be multiplied by the factor. When a reaction is multiplied by a factor, then delta H needs to be multiplied by a factor. Okay. So this factor can be -1, or it can be division of 2, anything, any number. I'm just giving example. If I have to multiply the reaction by -1, then you have to multiply the delta HR by -1. So what does it mean? We won't even write by multiply by number. We'll say that when I multiply, multiplying by 2 or dividing by 2 alone. Okay, if you are multiplying this given reaction C by 2, then I'll have 2H2 plus oxygen gives 2H2O. Then in this delta HR value also we have to multiply by the factor. So whatever is the factor, let Y is the factor, then delta H of the reaction also needs to be multiplied by the factor. So reaction is multiplied by the factor means its associated delta HR also needs to be multiplied by HR. Okay, so when we reverse the reaction, so that's what I told about -1. Okay, when I am reversing the reaction, for example, this C reaction I am reversing. When we reverse the C, what happens? We can write like H2O liquid gives H2 gas plus of O2 gas. So in that case, delta HR also needs to be reversed. That is minus of minus 286.03. That is plus 286.03. That's why I told you initially that when we are reversing the reaction, actually we are just like multiplying by -1. So that this reactant becomes product, product become reactant. So we have -1. We have to reverse the sign also. So forward reaction, whatever is the sign, when you are reversing the reaction, we have to reverse the delta H. Okay, whether heat is, because the forward reaction is exothermic, then the reverse reaction will be endothermic. Right? So that way this delta H will take sign convention, we have to take care. So sign convention we have to take care when we try to solve this type of problem. Okay. So this, with these basic points you should be able to solve the problem now. Okay. Okay, so how to rearrange it? It's only about rearranging. Okay. So how to rearrange the things to get our required reaction? So C should be in the left hand side. How to start with? I will say that I want C to be in the left hand side. Okay, so where is C? Here is the second equation. Okay, the second equation, C is to be in the right hand side, and how many C's are there? Only one C is there. So I can directly write B. So I can take first B as the first reaction, and multiplying factor is only 1 because nothing extra is required. So I can just write as it is, that is C of S plus O2 gas giving CO2 gas, comma, delta H value is minus 393.18 kilojoules. Okay, so we want to, there is no CO2 in the right hand side of the overall reaction which we want. Okay, so that way we should have C plus CO2 as a reactant or anything is there, we have to write that. Okay, CO2 has to come in the left hand side, right? So here CO2 is in the product side. So to cancel the CO2, we want this A to be reversed. So okay, you can say reverse A. We have to reverse A because CO2 is in right hand side, but in final product it should not be there. So we have to have CO2 in the left hand side. So from the given reaction A, if I reverse it, and similarly what is the stoichiometric coefficient of CO2? Only 1. So multiplying by 1. Reversing A and multiplying by 1 only, because if it is 2 we have to multiply by 2. That's why I'm just giving you 1 here. Otherwise, if you understood, no need to write that 1 here. Okay, so if I reverse this reaction, what I get is so what is there? If we reverse A, what we get is CO2 gas plus 2H2O will give CH4 gas plus 2O2 gas, but we have reversed it. So what will happen to delta HR? We are reversing means delta HR will become minus 890.94. This is important. Here delta H is going to minus of minus, because here it is minus is there. Since we reversing the reaction, so this minus will become minus into minus plus. Okay, so that way it is going to be plus 890.94. Okay, now third reaction, what we have to do with third reaction? Given third is given like in left hand side H2O is there, in our final product water is not there, right? So we should have this reaction water in the right hand side so that it will get cancelled, but there are two water here. So what we have to do, we need two water in the right hand side, so we will multiply this given reaction C by 2 and substituting directly. I am writing direct because accordingly delta HR, what is happening to delta HR is understood. We are not reversing it. Okay, so when I say directly, delta HR will come as it is. What is the delta HR? But what happens? We are multiplying by 2. Therefore, 2 times delta HR will come into picture here. Okay, so what is that? 2 times minus 286.03, because this is this delta HR is for 1 mole of water formation, but what we are having is 2 mole of water formation, means that is going to be multiplied by 2. That is what we are doing. But if we are reversing this reaction, here also this minus or minus will come into picture, but in this case we are not reversing the reaction. So multiplying by 2, what we get is 2H2 plus 2 by 2 oxygen. So 2 by 2 is giving plus giving 2H2O as a product, and delta HR is multiplied by 2 here. Okay, so now first check whether we have written correctly. You have to cancel the things out here right now. Okay, so how to cancel? There is one CO2 in the right hand side, one CO2 in the left hand side. We have 2 water in the right hand side, 2 water in the left hand side, and we have there is one O2 plus here also this is 1, right? So 1 plus 1 2 O2, here also 2 O2 is there, so that way oxygen also cancelled. Then there are, what is left out we have to write, everything is cancelled, so remaining things we can write like C of S. So this C of S is left, I am writing C of S plus 2H2 will give, this is left, methane gas. So what is delta HR? Summation of these three on. Okay, so what is that? Please add the values. Minus 393.18 plus 890.94 plus 2 into, that means 0, 6, 12, 17, 5. Okay, so what is the value? This is also minus. So delta HR is overall it is going to be 5 plus 3, 8, almost 9. So we are going to get in the value of minus 7. Minus value only we are going to get. Please use your calculator. Don't believe in my values. 393.18 plus 572.06 minus 890.94. 74.3. Be careful while using the sign conventions here. Okay, that is the most important step here. What convention will come finally? Okay, majority is minus, only this is plus, and this summation is greater than this, so we should have minus value here. So minus 74.3, 3 or 9? That's 74.3. 3 kilojoules. Okay, so this is the heat of formation of methane. You can write that. Heat of formation of methane gas. Remember, in some cases, just phase change may be there. Okay, just phase change may be there. In that case, say for example, water, gas, vapor becoming water, liquid also will have some delta H. Okay, it may be latent heat of vaporization type. So that also will be taken into consideration. Okay, so when we do that, that also should be there. If in this case, we did not bother about it, but when there is phase change mentioned in the question, in that case, we have to consider that type of things also. Okay, that's a tip I'm giving. Okay, so we'll do one more numerical. Calculate the heat of formation of, calculate the heat of formation of calculate the heat of formation of zinc sulfate using Hess law. Okay, so there are some reactions given. Please write zinc plus S giving zinc sulfate. Another reaction is given 2 zinc sulfide plus 3 O2 gives 2 zinc oxide plus 2 SO2. Okay, so the third reaction is given 2 SO2 plus O2 gives 2 SO3, delta H equal to minus 196.8. All are in kilojoules, let us assume. Okay, the last reaction is zinc oxide plus sulfur trioxide forms sulfur zinc sulfate with delta H equal to minus 230.3 kilojoules. Okay, so this is the question given. So I just repeat the question. Calculate the heat of formation of zinc sulfate using Hess law for with the given reactions. Okay, so 4 reactions are given along with the heat of formation of heat of the reaction. So what we have to write is how zinc sulfate will be formed from heat of formation. We are writing how to write from its elements, individual elements, how zinc sulfate will be formed. We have to write. Okay, so to start with, so we need solution. So for starting the solution, let me label it as A, B, C, and D. And what is the zinc sulfate formation? Zinc sulfate formation is from the element. What is that? Zinc. SO4 has to be formed. That means there will be from its pure elements S, O2, and zinc. Okay, so how to balance it? There are 4 O here, that is 2 O2. There is 1 S, 1 zinc. So this is our reaction. So what is the delta HR for this formation? Okay, delta HF we can see. Okay. If it is a reaction, this heat of the reaction, or formation means delta HF we can write. Okay, so what is the heat of formation for the zinc sulfate? So first given reactions, you just observe the given reactions. What and all should be in the right hand side? We want zinc sulfur to be in the left hand side. So this can be taken directly, right? Zinc sulfur. So this is taken care. And we want oxygen also to be in the left hand side. We will take oxygen, but that will decide upon what is in the right hand side, right? So finally we want zinc sulfate to be in the right hand side. So this also we want the zinc sulfate to be in the right hand side. So this also will come directly. Okay, and but zinc oxide is in the left hand side here. So this needs to be cancelled, right? So this needs to be cancelled. Means this here SO3 is there. This also SO3 is there. So this also we can use directly. Similarly, zinc oxide is here. This also we can use directly. But this reaction has two zinc oxide. This is having one zinc oxide. So we may have to divide by 2 so that it will get cancelled here, right? But there are two SO2 here. So that also needs to be taken care. Okay, so that way, how many SO3 is there? One SO3 is there, but it is given 2 SO3 reaction is given. So this also can be used directly, but we may have to divide by 2. This also we need directly, but we may have to divide by 2. So if you observe these things, then performing the calculation is very simple. If you are dividing by 2, remember that in delta HR also we have to divide by 2. If you are reversing, then also it has to be delta HR also needs to be reversed. These 2 points, if you remember, you can solve this problem. Okay. So proceed to solve this problem. So A directly, we can write A into 1 times A, and we are writing it directly. Okay. So if you write A directly, what you get is zinc plus S giving zinc sulfide. So we have minus 184.23. Okay. So second also second is divided by 2. We can write the then S zinc sulfide plus 3 by 2 oxygen gives zinc oxide. So here delta H is what is that divided by 2, that is minus 925.5 divided by 2. Okay, and what is the third one? I told, so we want zinc oxide. Yes, third one also I told SO3 is only one here in this equation. So what we can do, we can divide this by 2. So if we divide this by 2, what we will get is SO2 plus half O2 giving SO3. So we'll write directly. C by 2 gives us this. So behind we have to divide by 2, minus 196.8 divided by 2. Okay. So then hello. 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 Okay, let's proceed. So third one, I said D can be written directly. So what is the thing? It is minus 230.3. So if I write zinc oxide plus SO3 giving zinc SO4. Okay. So balance it. Remember somebody asking me why we are dividing these 2 by 2? Why not we multiply A and D by 2? Yes, obviously we can do. So anyway, you have to balance it. Overall should become this equation for 1 mole of zinc sulfate formation. Okay, so this is important. For 1 mole of zinc sulfate formation, we have to find the delta HR. That's it. Okay, so that way if you have this final equation should be this. Which one you are multiplying, which one you are reversing, it is up to you. Either if I am dividing B and C, otherwise I can multiply A and D by 2 and leave the B and C as it is also, we are going to get the same, right? So different ways of solving it. Okay, let us proceed. So now we will check the balance, whether it is cancelled out or not. Zinc sulfate gets cancelled. 3 by 2 O2 plus half O2 is 4 by 2 is 2 O2. So that way 2 O2 will come in the left hand side. Zinc oxide gets cancelled, SO3 gets cancelled. Okay. So what we left out is zinc, sulfur plus this thing. What is happening to SO2? Here SO2 is there, sorry. Okay, so we have zinc plus sulfur plus totally 4 by 2, that is 2O2, giving zinc sulfate, and delta H is equal to, so we have this minus 184.23. So simplify, use your calculator to get the value. Minus 184.23 minus 925.5 divided by 2 minus 196.8 divided by 2 minus 230.3 equal to minus 975.68 kilojoules. Okay, so this is the way we have to use Hess law to determine the values of heat of formation of any substance from its pure elements. Okay, so if you are looking for some practice problems, calculate the heat of the reaction for HCl plus NH3 giving NH4Cl, ammonium chloride. Hydrochloric acid plus ammonia forming ammonium chloride. The data given are delta heat of formation for HCl equal to minus 92.87 kilojoule per mole. For ammonia, it is minus 46.22 kilojoule per mole. For NH4Cl, heat of formation is minus 315.6 kilojoule per mole. We have already seen what is heat capacity. It is the heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass of a substance by 1 Kelvin. So if it is mentioning it for if you take a ratio of heat capacity of water as the reference, then it is specific heat capacity, and molar heat capacity or molar heat capacity is if you are taking the substance weight of the substance in molar basis, mole of the substance. Okay, so if you how to determine specific heat of solid substances or alloys or metal alloys. Okay, if you have a mixture of solids, so for pure, some of the heat capacity of the elements are given here. You can refer to it. The CP values are listed in the table. So we can use Kopp's law if we don't have the data. If we are not having the data of any solid substance, we can make use of Kopp's law. Kopp's law states that when experimentally CP data is not available for solids, we can have a rough estimate of the specific heat capacity of a solids by using this Kopp's law. It states that the heat capacity of a heterogeneous mixture of solids is equal to the sum of heat capacity of the component parts. Okay, so depending upon the proportion in which it is present. Okay, the heat capacity of a heterogeneous mixture of solids is equal to sum of heat capacities of the component parts. So it can be used to find the heat capacity of a molecule using atoms heat capacity, or if you have a alloy, we can make use of the constituents heat capacity. But how to use, we'll, if we, for example, if CP value of the solids are given, like for carbon, if it is in solid state or if it is in gas state, we are having the value. So for carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, boron, silicon, fluorine, or phosphorus or sulfur, and for rest of the material, we have a data of 25.96. So what we can do is, we want for KMnO4. So remember, it K comes under this rest of the substance. Mn is also not there. Mn and K, we can take the value of 25.96. Whereas for oxygen, we are having a value of 16.8, right? So we can determine the value of K. So for K and Mn, from the table itself, they both are solids. So we can take the value of 25.96 joules per gram atom Kelvin, 25.96 and for oxygen from the same table we have 16.8. Okay, so how much is there? There is 1 K plus 1 Mn plus Cpf. Okay, plus there are 4 oxygen atoms, 4 times Cp of oxygen. Okay, is it O2 or O? So what is given is O, so 4 times Cp of element oxygen. Okay, so how to get the Cp value? Cp of KMnO4 is equal to 1 into 25.96 plus 1 into 25.96. Remember, both are coming under the rest of all in the table here. Okay, so from this we have taken for K and Mn. Okay, so for oxygen it is given 4 times 16.8. So what you will get is Cp of this in joule per mole Kelvin. Okay, so to form 1 mole of substance we are going to have 1 mole of 1 atom of manganese, 1 atom of K, and 4 atoms of oxygen, which forms 1 mole of this. Okay, so this is the theoretical value. Cp theoretical value. So using which law it is? Cope's law. Okay, so we can do the same for another one, where we can determine the Cp value of calcium sulfate hydrate, that is 2H2O. Okay, so here what you have to do, find the error percentage if data experimental value is also given. Okay, so how to gain the Cp value? Cp value is, let us have a table here. So we have Ca, we have S, we have O, we have H. How many are there? Ca is 1, S is 1, sulfur is 1, oxygen is how much? 4 plus 2, 6. Hydrogen is 4. Okay, so if you know the Cp value of individual compounds, so what is the Cp value of Ca? Ca comes under 20 others, right? So we have from the same table 25.96. Same about sulfur. What about sulfur? It is given 22.6. Please go to the table. So it is given here. You see, this is phosphorus and sulfur. This is phosphorus. So if it is K, it is potassium, right? So all that will come under rest of all. So if in this case, Ca and Ca is coming under rest of all. That's why we have taken the made use of 25.96. S value is 22.6 and 6 times 16.8. How much oxygen is there? And hydrogen is given 9.6. So that's why we'll make use of 6 times 16.8. and 4 times hydrogen value is 9.6. All are kilojoules, let us say. So this is given kilojoule. So make the calculate the value summation of these two. This, that is Cp of CaSO4 2H2O is equal to 1 into 25.96 plus 1 into 22.6 plus 6 into 16.8 plus 4 into 9.6. Okay, so this gives us a value. Please use your calculator. So what you will get is 187.80. So given value is 195.9. So this is the experimental value, real value. But what it is? Cp theoretical value. Theoretical calculation using Cope's law. Right? So what is the percentage error? It is the actual value, that is 195.9. So 195.9 minus 187.8 divided by this into 100 gives us the percentage error. So use the calculator. 195.9 minus 187.8 divided by 195.9. So we are getting 0.004 into 100, that is around 4% error we are getting. Okay, so that's the thing within. So this Cobb's law is applicable with a percentage error of plus or minus 5% error only we are getting. So that way this is applicable. So Cobb's law can be used to determine the CP value of solids mixtures. Okay, so next question. Determine the heat capacity of sodium sulfate 10H2O hydrates at room temperature using Cobb's law. So data is given, atomic heat capacity of the elements is given. Okay. So determine the heat capacity of sodium sulfate hydrate crystals at 10 at room temperature using Cobb's law. The atomic heat capacities of the elements are given. For Na, it is given like 26.04. For S, it is given 22.6. For O, it is given 16.8. For H, it is given 9.6. And so here also compare the result with experimental value of heat capacity of 592.2 joules per mole Kelvin. Okay, so will you try to solve it? So we can make a table. NaSOH. How much are there? Na, how many Na is there? 2 Na is there, 2 atoms. S is 1. O is 10 plus 4, 14. Hydrogen is 10 to 20 atoms are there. Okay. So the values are given. For Na it is 26.04. For S it is 22.6. For oxygen it is 16.8. For H it is 9.6. Okay. So if you make the multiplication of number of atoms into atomic heat capacities. So this into this 2 into 26.04 is 52.08, 1 into 22.6, 14 into 16.8, 20 into 9.6, 96 into 2. You get 192. So total is around 501.9 kilojoules per mole Kelvin. Okay. So it is gram atom Kelvin. So we are going to get mole Kelvin. Okay. So simply joule only. So question, second part of the question is what is the percentage error? Percentage error is equal to 592. The actual value is 501. Okay. So there is a lot of difference. So percentage error 592 minus 501.9 divided by 592.2 into 100 gives us the percentage. So you are getting the error around 15%. Okay. So same way, once CP value is known, how to do energy balance? So to perform energy balance for solid, how much it is being heated from a temperature T1 to temperature T2, heating solids. If you are heating the solid, what is the temperature, what is the thing can be determined if we know the solid's CP value. So either if you don't know also, we can use Cobb's law to determine the CP of solid. Okay, so if the rate, the mass or mass flow rate, mass per unit are okay, m dot or m, whatever is the thing, and if you know the delta T, we can determine what is the heat added or heat removed. If it is heating, heat is added to the solid, or if you can say if you are cooling, how much heat is removed from the solid. So can be determined by Newton's law of cooling itself. Q equal to mCp delta T, where m is the mass, Cp is specific heat. So remember it can be NCP delta T also. In that case, the Cp will have the unit of kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin. Okay. If it is N, it is going to be kilomole. T is going to be in Kelvin. So you are going to get cancelled. Okay, to get kilojoules. Okay, so Cp unit will have the unit corresponding to what is the what is the multiplying factor you are using, how much mass or how much moles you are using, accordingly we'll have the unit. So accordingly only you have to substitute. So carefully check the Cp value given. What is the unit in which it is given? Whether Cp is given in terms of kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin or kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Okay, value will be different for each case. Right? This can be converted using molecular weight of the substance of the solid. Okay, so that way you can convert it also, or this kilojoule may be given in kilocalorie or other units of heat. That way is not the issue here. So for example, if you do a problem for heating a carbon steel from 20 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, we check 2 kg of carbon steel is heated from 20 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. The specific heat of carbon steel is given like 0.49 kilojoule per kg degree Celsius. And the heat required can be calculated at Q equal to mass is 2 kg mass and Cp value is 0.49 kilojoule per kg. So that's why we are substituting in kg. And delta T is 100 minus 20. Okay, so what we get is heat to be added to raise the temperature from 20 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, which is 78.4 kilojoules. This much heat needs to be supplied. Okay. Moving on to specific heat of liquids. Remember, solid is having a different case, liquids have different case. Okay. So we know water. Water is the universal solvent used, or water is used everywhere in the heat exchangers, all the places to are heating or cooling the system. So we should know the specific heat value of water even if it is not given. Okay, 4186 joules per kg degree Celsius or kg Kelvin. Okay, joules per kg Kelvin unit will have the value of 4186, or you can say 4.186 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Okay, so here you can see the value of water, air, all that. If it is specific heat in other unit BTU per pounds per Fahrenheit also data is given. So you can, depending upon the situation, we have to make use in appropriate units. Okay, so this is actually experimentally determined value of specific heat capacity of water, which is, you can see that 4.178, where what we are using is 4.18. Okay, so almost third digit, second digit after decimal point, we have same values, right? So that is the thing. Here you can see the Cp value of a liquid like milk, sunflower oil, CCM oil, coconut oil is listed here. Okay. So if you look at the chemicals, some of the specific heat of the liquids are there just for a range. That's a equation is given, Cp equal to A plus whatever is the temperature divided by K. So we have data of A and K. So if you substitute the value of A and K, we will get Cp value of the liquids. So that way we can get the heat capacity because it is referred here. So you can say, for example, I want to calculate the Cp value of acetone at 40 degrees Celsius. So then I say this is within this range. So I can use the formula of Cp of acetone at 40 degrees Celsius is equal to 0.511 plus, let me say 40 degrees Celsius, we have to substitute what is that 40 divided by K value. K is 1320. So we will get Cp value of acetone at this temperature. Okay, what is the value of 40 divided by 1320 equal to this much plus 0.511. So you get 0.541. What is the units are calorie per gram. So you can say calorie per gram degree Celsius. Okay. This is the unit for this value, Cp of acetone. So like that you can perform the value, you can have a numerical, various numerical you can frame yourself and try to solve. using these values: glycerol, sulfuric acid. Determine at a temperature, let me say 20 degrees Celsius. What is the value? For glycerol, what is the value at 15 degrees Celsius? For chloroform, what is the temp value at 45 degrees Celsius? Please determine. Okay. Determine the value of specific heat of these liquids. Okay. So using this formula, we can make this. And how to determine the heat energy balance for liquids? So energy balance for liquids is only sensible heat, right? There is no phase change if you consider. So from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, we are heating the water. So we are considering no phase change. So Cp value is given 4.19. What is the heat required in kilowatt hour can be calculated. So remember, usually we get the heat in terms of kilojoule per second or kilojoule per hour. Okay, so we can convert thus to, because joule per second is watt. So accordingly, we have to convert the units to get in terms of kilowatt hour. Okay, so let us see. Per hour, time equal to 1 hour means what is the value? If you can do, we will get the answer. Okay, let us see. dq equal to mcp delta t. Here also mcp of the liquid delta t equal to dq. So you can say here what is given is 1 liter is given. So water 1 liter volume is given. Volume is 1 liter. What is the density? 1000 kg per meter cube, right? So how to convert it, this volume to mass? We know that mass equal to rho q, volumetric volume. Okay, density into volume. So volume, if you want kg, what it should be? Density is kg per meter cube. Q should be in meter cube. So we will get kg, right? So what is this volume? Volume is 1 liter. So 1 liter, how to convert it into kg? I'll do the conversion. That's what I have shown here. 1 liter equal to convert liter to meter cube. If you divide by 1000 liter, 1 meter cube is equal to 1000 liter. So this liter gets cancelled. And if you multiply by the density, we get this meter cube getting cancelled. So we get 1000 into 1000 kg. Okay, and this is your m value now. So this is our m value multiplying by Cp value of 4.19 kilojoule per kg degree Celsius, and delta T is 100 minus 0. We get the value of dq in kilojoules. And to convert into kilowatt hours, let us consider 1 hour. Okay. So what we get it is kilowatt second. Yeah, joule equal to watt into second. Joule equal to watt into second, because this thing. So we can, to write kilowatt hour, we can divide by 3000 seconds, because 1 hour is equal to 3600 second. 1 hour is equal to 3600 second. So we get second getting cancelled and the hour coming into the numerator. Okay, so that will be our answer. So like that, actually, if you look at Cp value for gases, so we have seen what is specific heat of gases. Specific heat capacity of gases, we have seen that it can be either Cp or Cv, and also we have derived the relationship between Cp minus Cv, which is equal to universal gas constant R. So either it can have either Cp or Cp value. So if it is isochoric condition, that is constant volume system, isochoric specific heat, or if it is constant pressure system, we can say isobaric specific heat. So either we will have Cv data or Cp data, and it is a function of temperature at low pressures. Okay, even though Cp is a function of pressure and temperature, at low pressures Cp is only a function of temperatures. Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss in specific heat of gases. So we are defining two Cp. One is two specific heat, one is specific heat at constant pressure, another one specific heat at constant volume. So we have already derived this equation, Cp minus Cv equal to R. Okay, and even the Cp can be converted in terms of molar specific heat and specific heat by dividing by molecular weight. I told you, if Cp by m is specific heat capacity, Cp is molar heat capacity. What is that? One is small c, one is capital C. Okay, So that way you can take it to the right hand side to write the relationship again. Okay, that is small Cp is equal to capital Cp by molecular weight, where small Cp is, so remember this is kilojoule per kg, this is kg per kg mole. To convert molar specific heat to specific heat using the molecular weight. For example, if you consider an methanol with molecular formula CH3OH is methanol, has a molar heat capacity of 81.1 joules per mole Kelvin. What is the specific heat capacity? What is the specific heat capacity? So first we will calculate the molar weight of the methanol, 4 into 1 plus 1 into 16. Okay. So that will give us the molecular weight of methanol 32.04. So that will give us the molecular weight of methanol 32.04. So once we have the molecular weight, so this data is given in joules per mole Kelvin. So 81.1 joules per gram mole Kelvin. When we are dividing by molecular weight, that is 32 kg per kg mole, gram per gram mole. Gram mole will get cancelled, so we'll get 81.1 divided by 32, which is 22.53 joules per gram Kelvin. It is equivalent to 2.53 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Okay. Specific heat of gases, it can be a pure gas or a mixture, right? If it is a mixture, then specific heat capacity of an ideal mixture is given by Cp of the mixture is equal to summation of Cpi into Xi, where Cpi is the specific heat capacity of the ith component, and Xi is the mass fraction or mole fraction. Let us assume it to be mole fraction, because if Cp is given in kilojoule per mole Kelvin, then Xi is mole fraction. So then what we are going to get is Cp mixture in kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin, when Cp of ith component is given in kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin, then we will use mole fraction Xi. Okay, if Cp is given in kilojoule per kg Kelvin, then Xi can be mass fraction. Okay, then Cp of a mixture is summation of I varying from 1 to n, where there are n components, Cpi into Xi. So once we get the Cpi value, we can substitute in Q equation to get the answer. Q equal to mCp delta T or Q equal to ncp delta T, depending upon C is in kilojoule per kg Kelvin or kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin. You can use m or n as per the requirement. So we can substitute in this equation to determine the heat added or removed using the Cp of a gas mixture. Okay, so enthalpy can be determined using this expression. So let us solve this gate question. So heat capacity is given as a function of temperature. I told you Cp is going to be a function of temperature, and Q equal to mCp delta T. So you can say that if it is given as a function of temperature, you can say integral mCp dt. Okay, so T1 to T2. So this is what we have to do. Okay, so here heat capacity of air is given. Heat capacity of air is approximately expressed as Cp equal to 26.693 plus some constant into T. So as a function of T, it is given. When we integrate, we are going to get a term T square by 2. Constant term, when we integrate, we are going to get a appearance of T, right? So Cp is in joules per mole Kelvin and T is in Kelvin given. The heat given off by 1 mole of air, determine the heat given off by 1 mole of air when it is cooled at 1 atmospheric pressure from 500 degrees Celsius to minus 100 degree. Remember, minus is given. Okay, so 1 mole is the basis, pressure is 1 atmosphere, temperatures are 500 degrees Celsius and minus 100 degrees Celsius. Cp is given as a function of temperature. There is no T here, so there is a T here. Okay, so you can substitute. By integrating, we will get the value. So there are 4 data are given: 10.73 kilojoules, 16.15 kilojoules, 18.11 kilojoules, 18.33 kilojoules. Okay, so what we can do, so T1 all in Kelvin we have to substitute. Okay, so temperature is, because here in this formula it is given T is in Kelvin, So let us write Kelvin values. So T1 is 500 plus 273, which is equal to 773 Kelvin. T2 is minus 100 plus 273, which is 173 Kelvin. Okay, so in this uh, T1 and T2 we know. Okay, so here T1 we know. So in the integral we know T1 and T2. So we can write the value. Okay, so we'll solve it. Problem. So we have T1 and T2. So we can write heat rejected during the process is going to be T1 to T2 CPDT. M is 1 mole, right? So that way you can let me write that also. Cp is in joule per mole. So accordingly I can say N dot. Q is equal to NCP delta T. N is equal to 1 mole. So integral Cp is 26.693 plus 7.365 into 10 power minus 3 T into dt. T1 is from 773 to 173. You can change the limits, that's not the issue. Okay. Because if you have this limit like this, that is better. Q equal to mCp delta. Heat is rejected, so we are going to get answer in minus form. That is the only difference. So if I can say that integrating 26.693 into T between the limits 173 to 773 plus 7.365 into 10 power minus 3. I am putting one minus 1 here so that the limits can be changed. Okay, into T square between the limits 173 to 773. Okay, so you'll get the heat to be rejected from the system and check in kilojoules. And here this negative sign only as an indicator that heat is rejected. Okay, so answer you have to report only in the positive value, that is whatever. Okay, whatever it is, you will write and check what you are getting. So in the option 4 option, you must get your option here, and finally write option is correct. So whatever is option, please comment your answer. Adiabatic flame temperature, we'll discuss about it. So we have seen already what is enthalpy of the reaction, the difference between the enthalpy of the products at the specified state and the enthalpy of the reactants at the same state for a complete reaction is enthalpy of the reaction. And we have seen what is enthalpy of combustion. It is the enthalpy of reaction for combustion processes. It represents the amount of heat released during a steady flow combustion process when 1 kilomole or 1 kg of a fuel is burnt completely at a specified temperature and pressure. It is called enthalpy of combustion. What is enthalpy of formation? It is the amount of energy absorbed or released as the component is formed from its stable elements during a steady flow process at a specified state. There is we are going to define heating value. What is heating value? It is the amount of heat released when a fuel is burnt completely in a steady flow process and the products are returned to the state of the reactants. So in that case it is called as heating value. So the heating value of a fuel is equal to the absolute value of the enthalpy of combustion of the fuel. Absolute value of the enthalpy of combustion of the fuel. Okay, so what happens is here we can define this heating value as higher heating value and lower heating value. So what is the difference? I have already told you the difference between flue gas analysis and OSAT analysis. In OSAT analysis the water is not considered in the composition, whereas in flue gas we are going to consider the water vapor, right? So here when the product water is in the vapor phase, when the product vapor in the flue gas, if water vapor is in vapor form, in gaseous form, in that case it is called as lower heating value. But when the product water is condensed into liquid, in that case the heating value is called higher heating value. So what is higher heating value? When the water in the products is in liquid form, what we get is higher heating value, and when the water in the product is in vapor form, we get lower heating value. Okay, so that way we can relate this higher heating value and lower heating value by the heat of condensation. So the higher heating value of the fuel is equal to the sum of the lower heating value of the fuel and the latent heat of vaporization of the water in the products. So higher heating value of the fuel is equal to lower heating value plus latent heat of vaporization of water in the product. So for example, if HFS is this thing, then M into HF, yes, where M is the amount of water formed. Okay, so that way we can relate the higher heating value with lower heating value. Okay, so if you coming to adiabatic flame temperature, right? Now coming to adiabatic process. So a process, what is adiabatic process? A process in which no heat can leave or enter a system. A process in which no heat can leave or enter a system is called as an adiabatic process. I hope you have learnt it in thermodynamics course also. It is a process in which a system neither gives the heat to the surrounding, nor does the system receive heat from the surrounding, nor does the system receive the heat from the surrounding. So we can consider this adiabatic process to be the one in which heat is contained within a system without loss or gain of heat to or from the outside source. So such process is called adiabatic process. Then what is adiabatic reaction? If a reaction which proceeds without loss or gain of heat, it is a reaction which proceeds without loss or gain of heat is called adiabatic reaction. So what happens when it is an adiabatic reaction is exothermic? The temperature of the product stream rises because you are not removing the heat from the system. What happens when the adiabatic reaction is endothermic? The temperature of the product will obviously decrease. So if you are not removing or adding heat to the system, so if it is an adiabatic, if it is exothermic reaction, the temperature will rise. If it is endothermic reaction, the temperature of the product stream will decrease. Okay, so we can determine what is adiabatic reaction temperature. The adiabatic reaction temperature. What is adiabatic reaction temperature? The temperature of the products under adiabatic conditions of the reaction is called adiabatic reaction temperature. Adiabatic reaction temperature. What is adiabatic reaction temperature? The temperature of the products under adiabatic conditions of the reaction is called adiabatic reaction temperature. But when a fuel is burned, so if in the reaction if some combustion is taking place, there we can define adiabatic flame temperature. What is adiabatic flame temperature? When a fuel is burnt, a considerable amount of heat energy is released. Some of this energy is transferred as heat through the walls of the reactor, and the remaining causes a rise in the temperature of the reaction products. So when we consider a exothermic reaction, if less amount of heat is transferred, higher will be the product temperature. Hence, if the reactor is adiabatic, the highest achievable temperature is reached, right? So if the reactor is adiabatic condition, the highest achievable temperature is attained. So this temperature is called as adiabatic flame temperature or theoretical flame temperature. Actually, for industrial practices, this when the fuel is burned in a well insulated furnaces, what happens? Because in furnaces, what will happen? We will have insulation layers, right? So if you are burning the fuel in a well insulated furnaces, etc., the heat loss is bound to be there due to radiation from the surface. Therefore, the actual flame temperature will be less than this adiabatic or theoretical flame temperature. This difference we should know. The actual flame temperature will be always less than the theoretical flame temperature. So it is a measure. So we can always determine adiabatic flame temperature so that we can know that the actual flame temperature is always going to be less than this adiabatic flame temperature. Okay. So we can say that the temperature attained when a fuel is burnt in air or oxygen under adiabatic conditions is called as adiabatic flame temperature or theoretical flame temperature. The adiabatic reaction temperature for a combustion reaction is termed as the adiabatic flame temperature or theoretical flame temperature. So we can do numericals to determine this adiabatic flame temperatures. Actually, we are going to have 4 different type of flame temperatures. Okay, one is theoretical flame temperature, adiabatic flame temperature, actual flame temperature, and maximum adiabatic flame temperature, or you can simply say maximum flame temperature. So it will be evident from the theoretical flame temperature. Theoretical flame temperature is not a tangible concept because it is never achievable. Even whatever insulation you give, there will be some heat loss to the surroundings. When the combustion of the fuel goes to completion and the entire heat of combustion goes to heat the products of combustion, the resultant temperature is the theoretical flame temperature. Actually, in reality, what happens? Combustion is never going to complete at high temperature owing to dissociation reaction. There is going to be dissociation reactions taking place. Similarly, when the endothermic effect of the dissociation reactions is taken into account, this adiabatic flame temperature will be obtained. Obviously, this temperature is going to be less than the theoretical flame temperature. So, adiabatic flame temperature takes into account the endothermic effects of the dissociation reactions. Okay. Actually, in a practical combustion process, what happens is this adiabatic conditions does not exist. So, there is always some heat loss to the surroundings of the system, as we have discussed. The resultant average temperature of the combustion products is termed as the actual flame temperature. Okay, so in practical combustion processes, adiabatic condition does not exist. So if you are considering some heat loss to the surroundings of the system, what we get is actual flame temperature. Okay, so all the 3 flame temperature defined above depend upon the composition of the fuel oxidant mixture. Actually, air fuel ratio, you can say. So if air is the oxidant and whatever fuel you have, so depending upon the composition, depending upon the air fuel mixture ratio, if the quantity of the oxidant is too small, what will happen? It will lead to incomplete combustion. The combustion will be incomplete when oxygen is less than the stoichiometric requirement, right? Similarly, what will happen if it is too large? If it is too large, it will dilute the products and take away the heat, right? So because the final product that is coming out, the temperature is the excess oxygen or nitrogen present in the mixture, it will eat some of the heat. So because it is unnecessarily present, because it's not taking part in the reaction, but it needs to get heat, right? So that way some of the heat is taken away by this excess oxygen. So if these two factors, what it does to that flame temperature, it will lower the flame temperature. Okay, so the theoretical flame temperature will have its maximum value at the stoichiometric composition of fuel and oxygen. This is the clue here to determine adiabatic flame temperature or theoretical flame temperature. So the theoretical flame temperature will have a maximum value at stoichiometric composition of the fuel and oxidant, because the degree of dissociation reaction markedly increases with the temperature. So the endothermic effects also rise with it. So the heat loss due to this factor increases with the rise in temperature at an accelerated rate. Okay, so the heat loss due to this factor will increase with the rise in temperature at an increased rate. Therefore, the maximum adiabatic flame temperature is realized when the fuel is slightly in excess of the stoichiometric composition. The maximum, when we will get the maximum adiabatic flame temperature, we will get the maximum adiabatic flame temperature when we have the fuel slightly excess of the stoichiometric composition. Okay, summarize what is adiabatic flame temperature, how to determine adiabatic flame temperature. So we will get the adiabatic flame temperature when the sum of the enthalpy of the reactants is equal to sum of the enthalpy of the products. In that case, what we get is adiabatic flame temperature. So we will get an expression in terms of T. We have to simplify it to get the adiabatic flame temperature. Usually Cp value as a function of T we will have. So substituting that in enthalpy of the reactant as well as enthalpy of the product, and simplifying, we are going to get adiabatic flame temperature. Seen what is the concept to be used to determine the adiabatic flame temperature. That is, we have to equate the total enthalpy of all the reactants involved in the reaction should be equal to enthalpy of all the products that is formed in the reaction. So by equating this, the only unknown parameter is going to be t, because Cp value will be given as a plus bt plus ct square plus dt power 4 like that. So you are going to get, depending upon how many terms in the Cp expression we are considering, we may have a cubic equation or quadratic equation. Okay, so we have to solve it to get the t value. So only unknown parameter is going to be t. So we have to carefully do the integration and get the answers. Okay, so please try to solve these practice problems. And these are going to be important for with respect to evaluation point of view also. Okay, so you should practice more problems on determining adiabatic flame temperature. Okay, so with that we are completing this module, and if you have any doubts, please comment. Thank you for joining my classroom.